my name is Ju Young Kim. I'm teaching applied piano, class piano, and music appreciation at Anderson University and Indiana University Kokomo. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to present for you all today as part of the IMTA State Conference. My session is titled Pedagogical Piano Music by Women Composers, Selected Piano Works for Intermediate Students by Amy Beach, Cecile Chaminade, and Lyra Auerbach. Piano students and teachers have been familiar with pedagogical pieces intended for intermediate students by male composers, including such pedagogical collections as Album for the Young by Robert Schumann, Children's Album by Peter Tchaikovsky, For Children by Bela Bartok, Music for Children by Sergei Prokofiev. However, a handful of women composers from the 19th to the 21st centuries have also composed pedagogical piano works for intermediate students. This presentation will introduce pedagogical piano music by 3 women composers, including Children's Carnival Opus 25 by Amy Beach, Children's Album Opus 126 by Cecile Chaminade, and Images from Childhood Opus 52 by Lyra Auerbach. These attractive sets are technically accessible to intermediate students and sophisticated at the same time. Selected pieces chosen from 3 of these collections will be played with discussion focused on voicing, articulation, balance, and musical expression. This presentation will provide a useful reference tool for teachers and students wishing to incorporate the music of women composers in their standard repertoire. In the 19th century, women were not expected to work outside their home. It was a time in which men worked while women stayed at home taking care of a family. Women in the middle and upper class received an education, usually from a tutor at home, not at a school. They learned artistic subjects, but these skills were not considered to be professionally useful. Brilliant pianist and prolific composer, Amy Beach was the first American woman to succeed as a composer of large-scale works. She was a child prodigy who improvised alto parts to her mother's soprano before the age of 2. She taught herself to read at age 3, and she played 4-part hymns by ear at 4 years old. At 7, she was playing Handel, Beethoven, and Chopin in public recitals. Beach became a pianist with a virtuoso technique and a phenomenal memory, making the first of several appearances with the Boston Symphony Orchestra in 1885. Beach expressively used harmonic color, modulation, mixed mode, and the increasingly complex chromatic system of the late Romantic era. Much of her work is programmatic and dramatic, using wide ranges of dynamics. Her keyboard music is characterized by a fondness for formal symmetry and balance, lyrical melodies, modulation by thirds, arpeggios, trills, and passages in parallel thirds and octaves, and use of the full range of the keyboard. Beach wrote over 200 songs, the Gallic Symphony, several chamber music, choral works, piano concerto, numerous solo piano music, among others. In addition to all these compositions, she wrote some notable music for young piano students. 2 of these are the Children's Album Opus 36 and the Children's Carnival Opus 25. A musically gifted child herself, she was able to convey a youthful feeling in her music for children. The 5 pieces in the children's album, Opus 36, are written in only treble clefs for both hands. The 6 pieces in the children's carnival, Opus 25, which I'm going to present today, introduce the bass clef. Both collections consist of contrasting dances or marches. The fingerings marked by the composer are designed to make good use of every finger on small hands, and it is also to bring out the accents so necessary to dance music. Having small hands herself, the composer was completely planning the fingering for children. Children's Carnival was composed in 1894, and it is a suite of 6 pieces, each 2 to 3 pages long. This collection paints portraits of the characters of European pantomime with titles like those in Schumann's work. Most pieces of Children's Carnival are in simple ternary form with the middle section in a related key. The first piece is a dramatic promenade, a march with a fanfare introduction in C major. The tempo marking alla marcia specifically describes the march-like character of this piece in 4/4 time signature with dotted rhythms in the right hand. After a 4 measure introduction with 2 hands playing in unison, a single-line right-hand melody with dotted rhythms appears over a primary chord bass line. Dotted rhythms are some of the most difficult rhythmic patterns for young students, because if students play the 16th note too long, the rhythm will sound like triplets. On the other hand, the rhythm will sound too snappy if students play the 16th note too short. In the middle section, the key moves to G major, and the melody in the right hand becomes more linear without the dotted rhythm. In addition to the difficulty in playing dotted rhythms correctly, another challenge in this piece is the transition from the passage with the dotted rhythm to the regular 8th note. There is a tendency for students to slow down or speed up in the 8th note passage after playing the previous dotted rhythm section. In order to keep a steady beat, students should think about and count 2 beats rather than 4 beats per each measure. Once the student has learned this piece, it will be much easier for the student to play the piece in 2 large beats. Larger, longer connections in musical ideas are always stronger than smaller ideas. It also helps the music to flow, and it helps the phrasing to be clear and natural. After the middle section, the piece returns to main key C major. Now the first section of this piece reappears here, and it finally climbs to the end with inversions of the C major triad. At the end of the piece, the texture represents the mood of triumph. Overall, this piece is confident and energetic in C major with a simple duple time signature. Both hands remain in the center of the piano, but many dynamic contrasts provide interest. It is an excellent opportunity for students to learn and explore different characteristics within one piece. Now I'm going to play the Promenade from Children's Carnival Opus 25 by Amy Beach. The next piece I'm going to introduce is the fifth piece titled Secrets in D major. When we are telling a secret to someone, we usually lower our voices or we whisper. This descriptive piece begins with a dynamic marking piano and keeps the soft sound for the entire piece. There are two voices in this piece. One is quarter note melody with tenuto marking, and the other is eighth note. These tenuto melodic notes alternate between two hands, and it must be clearly projected over the arpeggiated texture. It is a challenge for students to play the entire piece smoothly and softly while bringing out the melody. So I would like to recommend a practice method to achieve the balance. Students can play only the quarter note melody separately using legato touch with gradual dynamic changes in correct fingering. This exercise will give the ability to apply various degrees of pressure on the melodic line. Even though the melody seems primary in the music, the harmony is also necessary to support the melody. So when the students practice this piece, I also would like to recommend that they play the passage with the block chord progression by playing each four-note group all together. Now I'm going to play The Secret. The next piece I'm going to talk about is number 6, Harlequin. The Harlequin is a comic character from the Italian Commedia dell'arte. Harlequin is light-hearted and nimble, often depicted wearing a costume with diamond figures. The music Harlequin from Children's Carnival shows a characteristic of his mischievous nature with many grace notes in the light and delicate melody, along with staccato bass in the A section. The grace note is a common element in piano music. It is often written as a smaller note compared to the main note, so the student sometimes ignores the role or importance of the grace note because of their appearance on the score. The student should keep in mind that the grace note in this piece helps describe a witty character of the Harlequin. The second section of this piece is written in B flat major, and unlike the first section, the left hand plays the melody in this section. Overall, the rhythm in this piece is simple and consistent with eighth notes, as well as it is descriptive of the quick, sharp movements of the masked comic prankster Harlequin. Now I'm going to play the Harlequin from Children's Carnival, Opus 25. Cécile Chaminade was a successful French concert pianist who studied first with her mother. In 1875, Chaminade made her debut in Paris and went on to tour in Europe, already performing some of her own compositions. Chaminade must be considered as one of the most prolific and successful women composers of all time. Almost over 400 compositions were published during her lifetime. She composed in a wide variety of genres, including orchestral suites, opera, two piano trios, ballet, concertino for flute, more than 125 songs, and over 200 piano pieces. Chaminade's works were extremely popular in England and America. In England, she was a welcome guest of Queen Victoria. In America, many Chaminade clubs were formed around 1900. In 1908, she made a financially successful concert tour of 12 American cities from Boston to St. Louis. In 1913, she was awarded the Legion of Honor, a first for a female composer. Although most of her piano music is in the form of attractive character pieces with descriptive titles, Chaminade also composed larger works for the piano. For instance, she composed one piano sonata, two sets of concert etudes, Concertstück, and six other pieces for piano and orchestra. Her music is strong and vigorous, with charming, expressive melodies and sparkling dance rhythms. Clean textures, functional harmony with frequent color changes, traditional forms, and an emphasis on wit, elegance, and movement mark her style. In addition to all these compositions, she also wrote some notable music for young piano students. Two of these are the children's album, first series, opus 123, and the children's album, second series, opus 126. The first series, opus 123, has 12 character pieces, each 2 pages long, comprise extremely useful and attractive set for early intermediate students. The pieces in the first set are characterized by the typical rhythmic figures of the dances. Two hands are generally close together in thin textures, and there are few register changes, and those ranges are quite narrow in the middle of the keyboard. The second series, opus 126, which I'm going to introduce today, also has 12 pieces, but they are more appealing pieces, slightly more advanced for young piano students. So today I'm going to explore some pieces of this second series, opus 126. The first one I'm going to introduce is the second piece of the children's album, opus 126, titled Aubade. It is written in the key of E major in cut time. As opposed to a serenade intended for performance in the evening, the title of this piece, Aubade, is a term originally applied to music intended for performance at dawn. Now it has simply become a generic title. This piece is very calm, starting with the melody in the left hand, while the right hand plays accompaniment with double notes or chords. However, in the B section of the piece, melodic lines shift to the right hand, while the left hand plays double notes. And there are some refreshing chords in this B section. Overall, balancing between the two hands is very important in this piece, especially when the student plays the melody with the left hand. Sometimes students do not listen carefully to their left hand. To balance the voicing, I would like to suggest that students play and listen to each voice separately and control each one. Once a student can balance the voicing, they should be able to produce convincing musical phrases by using an appropriate dynamic level and proper pedaling. It is also essential to introduce some other pieces where the left hand plays an important part in the music. Teachers can also tell their students that the left hand is not always accompaniment to the right hand. Now I'm going to play the Aubade from children's album Opus 126 by Chaminade. The next piece I'm going to introduce is the Scherzo Valse, written in D major in 3/8 time signature. The character of this piece is humorous and cheerful, with an elegant and graceful melody in the left hand. It is a ternary form ABA and in the style of a valse. As you can see the music score, after 8 measures, the melody is now played by the right hand with more energy in forte. In the B section, there is a dramatic change that block chords with staccato and accent alternate with running 16th note passages. Compared to the previous section, this middle section is more cheerful and energetic with sharp and accented staccato chords. Since this piece has different articulations such as legato, staccato, and accents, students should understand how to coordinate all different touches. The best way to play this piece, I think, is to interpret them within the context of the music in order to highlight the melodic presence. So teachers should help students understand how to control these articulations. Now here is the scherzo valse. The next piece I'm going to introduce is the seventh piece titled Elegy. This piece is written in D minor and 6/8 meter. An elegy refers to a song or poem expressing sorrow or lamentation, especially for one who is dead. The title elegy presents the whole mood of this piece, and the key of D minor presents the sadness and melancholy of the music. Overall, the right hand plays a soft and simple melody with the markings of cantando, dolce, or dolcissimo, while the left hand playing tremolo-like 16th notes under the melody. The left hand accompaniment requires constant sensitivity and smoothness by maintaining evenness in the background to support the right hand singing melody throughout the piece. Because of this texture, students must listen carefully to the melodic notes, emphasizing them clearly over the accompaniment. Also, they should master a smooth and continuous flow with a light touch while developing a subtle tone color and delicate expression for the right hand melody. A short cadenza-like section with 16th note passage appears in the middle of this piece. Now I'm going to play the elegy from children's album Opus 126. The next woman composer's piano music for young students that I want to introduce is Images from Childhood, Opus 52 by Lyra Auerbach. Lyra Auerbach is a Russian-born American classical composer and concert pianist. She studied at the Juilliard School and Hochschule für Musik, Theater und Medien Hannover in Germany. Like pianist composer Mozart, Beethoven, Liszt, and Rachmaninoff, Lyra Auerbach is composing and giving performances. Her mother was a piano teacher, and many of her ancestors were also musicians. So Lyra Auerbach began composing her own music at an early age, and ever since then she has earned a good reputation. The composer has already published over 100 compositions, including 36 chamber music works, 2 operas, 10 ballets, 12 symphonic works, over a dozen concerti, numerous solo works for various instruments, choral and vocal music, and transcriptions. Her compositions have been commissioned and performed by numerous artists, orchestras, choirs, and ballet companies. Images from Childhood, Opus 52, is a collection of 12 character pieces. And this collection is her only intermediate level work written for the piano. This collection presents a valuable opportunity for intermediate students to explore contemporary music, especially written by a living composer. Also, it is a great opportunity to develop pianistic skills and artistry to play with expression. Images from childhood can be used to introduce contemporary styles and techniques to students. Auerbach's musical style is often described as polystylism. From an email interview in 2012, she said, "Polystylism means the freedom to play with all musical ears and meanings in order to achieve your goal. And there are no limits to what you can do. I can draw from all sources which I love and integrate them into my own musical language." Through the study of this collection, students can learn useful pianistic skills, including meter changes, tempo changes, voicing, pedaling, articulation, and bitonality in their study. All the character pieces in this collection also give students many opportunities to work on projecting musical ideas and artistic performance. This collection is technically accessible to intermediate students, and it can be performed by students in concert halls. Today, I would like to introduce 3 pieces from the Images from Childhood. Written in cut time and andante, the third piece of the collection, titled Dialogue, shows a conversation between a high register and a low register. As you can see the music score, in addition to the register difference, the high register is played soft in piano and the low register is played loud in forte or mezzo forte with the marking of cantabile molto espressivo. Also, the low register is played with the right hand crossed over the left hand. The left hand pattern is quite simple, alternating between D major chord and G minor chord. The dialogue is a good selection to help students develop imagination by describing a dialogue between, like, female for high register and male for the low register. Also, it is a good opportunity to introduce crossing hands while playing a melody with different dynamics. They can also learn how to project the melody and how to shape the phrase more effectively, while balancing between the right hand melody and the left hand accompaniment. It is also important to play the left hand accompaniment evenly, softly, and lightly. To achieve this goal, students can practice the left hand by playing block chord for the whole measure. As I mentioned, there are only 2 chords in the left hand, the D major chord in root position and the G minor chord in second inversion. So after practicing only the left hand with block chords, then they can play the left hand as written. Now I'm going to play the dialogue from the Images from Childhood, Opus 52. The next piece I'm going to introduce is the Family Holiday. The Family Holiday is a lyrical piece consistently presenting a lyrical cello-like melody in the left hand, while the right hand playing a very gentle syncopated accompaniment pattern. This is a study in expressing the left-hand melody's long phrases, as well as balancing the voice between the left-hand melody and the right-hand accompaniment. This piece is also a great selection to prepare students for pieces like Chopin's Prelude Opus 28, number 6 in B minor, or some pieces by Amy Beach or Cecile Chaminade that I already mentioned early in this presentation, which have the left hand play melody and the right hand play accompaniment. In the Family Holiday, to project the left hand expressive melody while playing the right hand accompaniment, I would like to suggest that the student play and listen to each voice or each hand separately and control each one with proper dynamic changes. Developing the ability to sing out the left hand melody and keep the right hand accompaniment soft would help students prepare to play more advanced pieces using this technique. Once the student can balance the voicing, they must produce convincing musical phrases by using appropriate dynamic level and pedaling. To sustain a long phrase in the left hand, it would be helpful to hold and connect each note with a good legato touch and proper pedaling. Here is my playing of the Family Holiday. The next piece is titled E Creatures, written in cut time. As you can see, the key signature in the beginning of this piece, the polytonality is very evident in this piece. Both hands are written in a treble clef, but there are no sharps or flats for the right hand, and there are 5 flats for the left hand. So the right hand plays all white keys except for measure 13, and the left hand plays only black keys throughout this piece. The form of this piece is ABA ternary form, and the A section from measure 1 through 5 has staccato notes in both hands simultaneously. Also, here is an interesting thing that the right hand and the left hand are a half step apart. In the B section, there are 2 note slurs throughout this middle section. This piece is a good selection to help students develop rhythmic vitality with delicate touch and clear articulation between staccato and slur. My suggestions are practicing this piece in various tempos from slow tempo to fast tempo in order to improve control and technique, while listening very carefully if those staccato notes sound light and detached. Another suggestion is having the student count 2 beats rather than 4 beats per each measure. It will help them play the piece lightly as well as increase the tempo easily. Here is the e-creatures from images from childhood. The intermediate music by the 3 women composers in this presentation shows technical competence, marvelous lyricism, sensitive tone colors, and harmonic creativity for the piano. Amy Beach, Cecile Chaminade, and Lyra Auerbach composed very valuable and charming pieces for a young pianist. Those pieces could be a useful pedagogical resource for teaching piano students in addition to repertoire from other composers. These 3 collections are not only good program materials for the student to enter intermediate study, but these collections can also prepare the student to play advanced works by composers of the standard canon. I hope you have enjoyed getting to know these pieces by 3 different women composers. I also hope you find it useful for your teaching, and it's really my hope that more of these will be heard in student recitals, festivals, and competitions. Thank you again for inviting me to present for the IMTA State Conference, and I hope all of you are doing very well, safe, and healthy. Have a great fall semester. Thank you.